What happens when you combine layered quilting with a little fabric collage? Pure amazingness. Hey, I'm Angela Walters from Quilting is My Therapy, and welcome to the latest video in the Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along Layered Quilting. So far, we've learned the basic layering technique. We've learned how to take it up a notch by adding a little more quilting and cutting, and now we're going to combine it with fabric collage to give it a cool effect. Basically, we're taking fabric and layering it on top of our quilted piece, quilting it, and then cutting it away. It's kind of like appliqué, except we're going to quilt it and then cut it instead of the other way around. And this technique works whether you have a main print, a blender print, or you make up your own design. First, let's see this technique with a larger focal print.
Cut it out a little bit larger than the element you want to quilt around. You can use a couple pins to hold it. Then I'm going to quilt along the edge of the element, getting it as close to that line as I can. Now here in a second, I am going to come back and add some more quilting, but first I'm going to cut away all that excess fabric. I'm going to cut it just as close as I can to that quilting, without actually trimming the quilting. But before I add more quilting to this little birdie, I think I'm going to add a couple more birds to the fabric. Now I can come in and add some more quilting right on top of this. The reason I don't quilt it first is if my quilting happens to go off the edge, it'll be really tricky to remove that background fabric, and all the extra quilting can overlap a little bit and really help secure this piece of fabric in place.
And once I'm done with the bird, I can start quilting the background. And of course, I'm going to keep cutting and quilting and adding more complexity and more layers to this quilt. Now, if you wanted to, you could of course have a plan on how you're going to go about this, but I think it's so much fun to wing it and make it up as I go. If I'm being honest with you, the real reason I chose this technique for the Free Motion Challenge is because it's a low-stress way to practice your machine quilting. It's kind of hard to be worried about what your designs look like when you know you're going to cut into the quilt anyway. So why not go ahead and try a bunch of different designs on your quilt? Come on, it'll be fun. And the best part is, the quilt's done when you say it's done. And I think this quilt is done. You don't have to go around all the details like I did with the bird. You could just go around the basic shape and then fill it in with an all over. For instance, with this Alice in Glass print, I love the bright colors and the beautiful shapes. But maybe I don't have time to quilt around all those little bitty details. What I'm going to do is just slap it on, roughly quilt around the outside, then I can cut it away and add some more quilting. And I think I'm going to quilt some wavy lines that echo it, working its way out so that I can cut away and see the final result. This is perfect if you have that one treasured piece of fabric that you're deathly afraid to piece. Go ahead and put it on a quilt. Then you can use the quilting to frame it and highlight it. If you don't have that perfect focal print laying around, don't worry. You can use smaller prints as well. And it's fun to sprinkle them throughout your quilt. Let me show you what I mean. Everything is still the same. You're still going to layer it on top of your quilt and quilt around the elements that you like, just on a smaller scale. And I'm cutting just as close to that line as I can get. And if you're dealing with little tiny areas you have to get in and out of, you'll find that using some curved snips might be just a little bit easier. Well, that sure looks cute, but I think it needs a couple more before I go any further. I'm loving how this is looking, and I'm sure I'm going to cut away a little bit more, but first I'm going to add some more quilting. Now it's time to do some cutting, and then I'll see if I want to add a little bit more collage to my quilt. What's great about it is you can really play around with it and come up with your own style. Plus, adding fabric on top of it after I've cut away just adds to the look of depth and makes it look so much more interesting. I know you can't tell from the screen, but this metallic linen looks so amazing. Okay, I can just hear some of you saying, what if I don't have a focal print laying around? All right, if you don't have a fabric stash, that must mean you're a newer quilter. That's all right. You can simply create the shape that you want to add to your quilt. For instance, on the majestic purple quilt, I'm going to use the quilting to create the shape that I want to cut around. I've been having a lot of fun with this kit, and I think it's a great example that it doesn't have to be curvy lines to be impactful. But right now, I'm actually going to focus on the center. I'm going to use this purple solid to add some different shapes with my quilt. If you have a particular shape in mind, you could go ahead and mark it out or just freehand it. I think this time around, I'm going to go ahead and mark out the shape. Using my Frixon marker, I'm going to go with a leaf shape. Then you're just going to quilt around and cut it out. This technique is great if you have a specific place you want your little pieces to be. That way there's no guesswork involved. Wouldn't this be a fun way to combine your ruler work with your quilting? I think so. I can use my ruler to quilt the shape that I want and still cut away from it. I'm going to add a few more and then we'll see what it looks like. This is a great technique if you want to add that layered look to your quilt without having that whole big piece of fabric over the whole quilt. Or if you need to cover up some unintentional customizations of your machine quilting or potential piecing problems. Nothing says fixed like a beautiful heart over that mistake. There are so many different ways you can use this technique. I would love to see what you come up with. So if you post your pictures on social media, I hope you'll use the hashtag FMQChallenge so I can see what you're up to. And even better, tag me in it at AngelaFMQ. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Okay, whether you use the fabric collage with your layered quilting or just do layered quilting, go ahead and finish up the rest of your quilt sandwich because in the next and last video, I'm going to give you some ideas on what you can do with your beautiful layered fabric. Okay, so go ahead and get quilting and I'll see you in the next video. Happy quilting!